Who's the better team, Dog?
I think
Suns or Clippers?
I had the Suns in the NBA final, and it's hard to judge it on 2 games. I think the Clippers are going to beat them. I'd probably take 7 games, but they got a better bench. Kawhi is great. Let's assume George doesn't play. The Suns last night were in some trouble in the second quarter, down 11. They didn't quite put the game away. That game got to 7 late in the fourth quarter. Booker was wonderful. Paul, your little buddy there, made 2 big baskets and had a nice pass for a basket. Point guard, whatever you guys call him.
Point guard.
My goodness. Anyway, I think the Clippers. I think it's 7 games. I think the Suns will win a game in L.A. I think the Clippers are going to beat them in 7. I think L.A. better bench. Kawhi's playing great. I like Lue, the head coach. I like him in these sort of situations. Westbrook's into it. And, 3 for 19 in game 1, and he still won the game, and he made a lot of big plays. I think the Clippers are going to win.
Jay?
I think the Suns are the better team. Both these coaches, by the way, let's acknowledge both these coaches. This is high-level basketball, 2 high-level teams and 2 high-level coaches. I thought some adjustments that each team made was really good in game 2, particularly Monty Williams. I talked about this yesterday. They did not double Kawhi Leonard once in game 1. Mm-hmm. Took 24 shots, 13 of 24. They doubled him 7 times last night. The Clippers were 1 for 7 when they doubled Kawhi Leonard. Good adjustment from Monty. That's going to continue going forward. They're going to pick and choose their spots. There's times where he's going to be ISO'd one-on-one against Durant. They're going to double him more. The difference in this, right, they decided to double Kevin Durant in the second half. Who's he swinging the ball to? Devin Booker.
Yes.
Devin Booker.
Yes.
Chris Paul. That's the difference between these two teams. The one guy they had success with last night on a double team, the guy that made the shot was Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon's the one guy that can really space the floor for them, but he's kicking out to Russell Westbrook. This is where they really miss Paul George, and that's where I think the Suns have an advantage. If you're going to decide to double the other team's best player, whether that's Kevin Durant or Kawhi, look who Kevin Durant is passing the ball to. The second thing, and this is where I think Ty Lue has to make an adjustment.
Okay.
If they have a chance to win the series, you can't play Zubac 30 minutes in a game. You cannot play drop coverage against the Phoenix Suns. Mason Plumlee can play up and recover. He's also a little more switchable. I played against this Clippers team with the Mavs. Ty Lue almost waited too long to get Zubac out of the rotation and playing heavy minutes because Luka was exploiting that matchup, whether it was drop or whether it was against a switch. I don't think you can play him 30 minutes. Drop coverage last night, 24 times against a pick and roll, 1.77 points per possession. Mm-hmm. Context, Sacramento Kings best offense in the league, 1.19. Like, you can't play offense better than that. Mm-hmm. Against Zubac, it was 1.85. So that's the adjustment I think Ty Lue's got to make. It puts a lot of pressure on Mason Plumlee, but to me, I think Phoenix has the advantage in this series because of those 2 things.
I agree with you, but I'm going to one-up you in terms of a suggestion that I would point out. I think you could go without Zubac or Plumlee at times. Go completely small, because what you're doing at that particular moment is DeAndre Ayton to beat you if he's in that lineup. With KD, obviously, with Booker. Now, obviously, you got to take that second to get to your point about him, KD swinging the ball to Booker. It all depends on how efficient Booker is. I think, obviously, Booker's a star. He's a stud. I love Booker. But we remember what happened in Game 7 against Dallas. And you know what? As he goes sometimes is as the sun goes, at least before KD arrived. Now that KD is there with them, again, Booker's going to still need to be efficient if you want to ensure that Phoenix is going to advance. But I would tell you, again, if I'm Ty Lue and I'm dreading the ball in Booker or KD's hands, maybe I try to lure or tempt the Clippers in to sitting there and saying, okay, DeAndre Ayton, go ahead and beat us. Because what we're going to do is we're going to go small. We're going to try to get all up in Booker and in KD. Obviously, they're going to be tempted to throw the ball into DeAndre Ayton because you got smaller guys on you. He should dominate them, but will he? I'm willing to take my chance, and if I can lure them into doing such a thing, that's a game that I might play. But to answer the question directly, it's the Suns. I think the Suns are the better team because you've got Booker, you've got KD against Kawhi. Kawhi is the one reliable offensive component that the Clippers have. Everybody everybody else's guesswork. Russell Westbrook, 3 of 19 in game 1. But last night, he shoots better. He drops 28. It's the haphazardness of it all with Paul George being out. You don't know who else is going to step up for the Clippers on a night-in, night-out basis outside of Kawhi. You fully expect KD and Booker to step up. And the fact that you have that as something that you could lean on, I would say the Phoenix Suns are the answer to that question.
You bring up Game 7 in the Dallas series last year, and I think that's important to note. Because the adjustment that Dallas made in that series in Game 6 and Game 7, they just blitzed Devin Booker on every single dribble handoff, every single pick and roll, and he got off the ball. You can't do it now.
You can't do it to Phoenix
You
now.
can't do it now. And that's what the luxury of adding a Kevin Durant is. I like your call with the small ball, and I think they should go to more of it, especially, actually, when Ayton is on the bench and you've got Biyombo in there. At that point, you can afford to switch everything. Last year against mismatches is DeAndre Ayton absolutely killed. Now, we don't have a sample size with Kevin Durant in the lineup to really gauge how that's going to go. But on the sample size we had last year with that Phoenix Suns roster, when they switched and put a small on him, he absolutely mashed against those plays.
You're absolutely right. And the thing about it, going back to my point about DeAndre Ayton, the reason I'm bringing that up is because KD is fixated on playing the right way. What do we lament about him from time to time? Actually lament about him. As efficient of an offensive superstar as he is, he doesn't mind being deferential. He'll do what the game calls for him to do. Yeah. And he's about making the right play, and he's about being selfless, which is a beautiful thing. But it also could be something good for the opponent from time to time as well, because you know what, that KD could slay you. But when he's reluctant to do so because the right play is to throw the ball inside to a bigger DeAndre Ayton against anybody that the Clippers put against them while they're playing small ball, I'm basically disrupting Phoenix's rhythm because I'm willing to force them to give the ball to DeAndre Ayton, which they might be compelled to do. And as long as it keeps the ball out of KD and Booker's hands, I'm in a good place if I'm Ty Lue. I need to see Monty Williams use his bench a bit more, because that's the impression that you gave when you first acquired KD, that we had some dudes with Craig, Okogie, and others that we could bring off the bench that could do some things for us. It ain't just about the big four with CP3, Booker, KD, and DeAndre Ayton. And you gave that impression, and you gave the impression that you were going to trust come postseason time. Now, I know that coaches religiously almost, they shorten that roster. We get all of that. Or shorten that lineup. We get all of that. But Phoenix is one of those rare teams that can't afford to do that. You have no chance of winning it all if you're going to rely on 6 guys that much throughout the course of these playoffs. That's not going to get it done. That's my concern.
I'm not concerned specifically about this series because I do think the matchup and I do think the game dictates the rotation.
Okay.
And if you look at the end of that first half last night, Phoenix was in trouble. They go on the 11-2 run. Let's acknowledge Torrey Craig, because we had questions about the 5th guy, right? We've been talking about this for the last 2 months. The 5th guy. Who's the 5th guy?
Great.
Torrey Craig. 19 and a half a game. Yeah. Over 2 games, 71% from the field. He's balling. Mm-hmm. I think in this matchup, it is important to play your starters. And I'm not saying it's got to be 44 and 42 minutes like it was last night for the next 4, 5, 6 games, whatever, or 4 or 5 games, whatever it is. If they get past this team, they're not going to need to play their starters 45 minutes a night against the Denver Nuggets, because I think the Denver Nuggets are going to beat Minnesota. Denver doesn't have as good of a bench as the Clippers. Okay. When you're bringing off guys like Terrence Mann, Norman Powell, Mason Plumlee, these are guys that could start on a lot of teams. Mason Plumlee has been a starter. Mm-hmm. Norman Powell has been a starter at times. So that's why it's not my concern. My concern is not, the toll of this series and playing. These are going to be intense basketball games. I think the starters are needed in this series to play 37 to 42 minutes a game.
Listen, I think that the issue for the Suns will be late in the series, 4th quarter. One of those 3 guys is off, especially Paul, 18 years in the league, a little older, didn't play great, didn't score a lot in the first game. Where are they going to get a little help? Who's going to get them a basket or 2 in the last 6, 7 minutes of a tight game? You hit it right in the head. Westbrook. Gordon he's got guts and he's got tremendous range, and he's been in big games before. Powell's a pain in the neck. Mann's good. They got the two centers. Kawhi's a staple. I think this bench will be a big factor, and it doesn't have to be a factor for very long. This series is going to come right down to a basket or two at the end of Game 7. These are two evenly matched teams. We're going to Game 7 in this series. I'd be shocked if it isn't. And when you go to a Game 7, it's a little thing that can tilt it. And I think those guys that Clippers can bring off the bench and find enough offense out of Gordon, Westbrook, Powell. It's funny, the game they win, Westbrook doesn't score. The game they lose, he has a great offensive game. Mm-hmm. It's weird. But Gordon, Westbrook, Powell, man, they get two of those guys helping Leonard. They got a hell of a chance to win. I think the Clippers are going to beat them, and the bench is going to be one of the reasons why.
One thing we should note, Cam Payne has been out the first two games, nursing a sore back.
Coming back.
And there's no update on him right now. Right. But at some point, I hope he's back this series. And he does provide a little bit of lift, and Monty Williams trusts him. He played well as a starter when Chris Paul was hurt this year.
One quick point. The Phoenix Suns were 21 of 29 on mid-range in their mid-range jumpers. Both CP3 and Kevin Durant hit 7 of 10 of their mid-range jumpers. You can't have CP3 getting in the paint that religiously and being that efficient, and you're going to win this series if you are the Los Angeles Clippers. You cannot afford to let that happen.
That's why I brought up the Zubac thing and drop coverage, Stephen A. I'm glad you agree with me on something.
Yes, I did. I did agree with you. I said it earlier.
This is really cute, all of this. Yeah. Who would you rather have moving forward, KD or Kawhi?
Believe it or not, it's Kawhi for this series.
You?
Yes.
Mr. Kevin Durant, president of the Kevin Durant fan club, wants Kawhi?
Listen.
When did that change?
Because I'm not just looking at numbers. Both of them have at least 25, 5, and 5 in the first two games of the series. We get all of that. Kawhi had 38 and 31 last night. Here's my issue. The aggressiveness of Kawhi Leonard is what I'm leaning on. Kawhi Leonard, like you said, they blitzed him and went after him. He had to give up the ball a little bit more than he had to do in Game 1. They weren't doubling him. They weren't going after him in Game 1 the way they did in Game 2. We get that. But he's looking for his shot. He's looking to be aggressive. Kevin Durant is looking to make the right play. He's looking to fit in. At any moment that you give Kawhi Leonard a slither, he wants to take over. Give him the damn ball. He wants to do it. That's the impression that I get when I'm watching him, and that's what I want from my superstar in a series like this. That's why I would say Kawhi.
Ball's in his hands more. He can facilitate a little more. He has the ball a lot at the top of the key. He brings the ball up the court. He controls the game a little more. Durant needs Paul, give him the ball at certain spots. It's splitting hairs, and I'm with him on Durant. I love him. But for this particular scenario, what I've seen in these two games, I want Kawhi. I'd pick Kawhi. If I was, and the pickup, I got to win some games. I'll pick Kawhi over Durant. Yeah, that's a tough call.
It's by necessity, Mad Dog, that Kawhi has to have the ball. He doesn't have Devin Booker on his team.
But
he
I
doesn't
like that.
have
But
Chris
I like
Paul
that.
on his team.
It's true. Fair.
I'm not splitting hairs here because I learned my lesson last year. And you guys asked me a question. Who would you rather have in the clutch, Luka or Steph? And I'm not dealing with people's fans. I really am not, because they're both fantastic players. I'm good with either one. Mm-hmm. I'm good with either one. I just so enjoy watching Kawhi in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Well, truthfully, I've gone against him and I didn't enjoy it. But now as a fan, he's special in the playoffs.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, JJ Redick. How about this? There's never been any time when you've watched Kevin Durant and you said, you're so great, damn it, take the game over. We know you can. Just take it over. You've never done that ever watching Kevin Durant or any star in the league?
The most confusing time I've ever watched Kevin Durant was in the Brooklyn series last year. Or, the Boston series last year in the first round. That was confusing. That was a performance I've never seen before.
You're saved, because I got to get to the
He's
top of the
saved because
hour.
he answered the question subtly. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.